Well, I could start. I had look back at the incident reports from the last 6 years, and I found 7 reported ice-related cases, which to some extent show that we don't learn every time from the lessons that we should. We have a couple of incidents where we had broken fire pipelines because somebody forgot to drain before we experienced cold temperatures. That is kind of a natural thing that you should do, but you tend to forget. We had also a similar case, which more is a structural case. I think it was Kumbula that was up in Sabetta in the Arctic, and we experienced some -40 degrees, and that led to a broken ballast water pipe in a void space because it had been filled a bit too high, the ballast water tank, and that made the pipe to break. One case where we had a, shall we say, ice transit damage was, or let's say that we think it was, we had a hole in the forepeak tank that was most likely caused by hitting an ice floe or something hard that was inside the ice. We don't really know when it happened. We just detected that there was a hole in the forepeak tank. And other than that, we have had some small incidents with touching the quayside because of too much ice in the port, and one case where we had a hole in the bow because of a collision with the assisting icebreaker that suddenly stopped. Those are kind of typical. Also going back to my time at Lloyd's Register, the damages that I experienced or inspected at that time were quite a few holes in the bow because of a collision with the assisting icebreaker. Then one case I remember where we had a rudder stock that got twisted because of going astern with the rudder turned, something that again you should know, but in this case they had forgotten. One case we had also a bulb damage where it was a say flag from southern parts of the world, and they didn't ballast the ship deep enough, so going with too much speed in ice conditions. But those are kind of what we have seen lately, and I would say based on what I saw at Lloyd's, the amount of damages, ice damages, have gone down during the years. I don't know if you at Alandia see the same.
Yeah, it tends to agree with the trend. And is there anything that in your company or your previous companies, Lloyd's, for example, that like a lesson learned that this is what we keep seeing, and now we learned it and you implement it in the system and try to ensure that it doesn't recur exactly the same way as it happened first time?
Well, people tend to forget. So you remember the case for a couple of years, you have it in your procedures, yes, but then you forget, like the draining, and then you have the issue once again. But of course, the more we have instructions and such, the more there is a likelihood that we don't see the reoccurrence of the issues. And of course, the polar code that has come into force will also, I believe, bring it down, because there's quite a lot of sharing of manuals or manual templates and procedures and so on through that. So I think that through that we will see less and less incidents.
Okay, we count on that. Thank you, Hans. The same question, who would like to go next, Thomas, Sten, or Niklas? Something you would like to bring on table, a lesson learned?
Yes, Martti, Thomas. Yes, we had quite a severe accident in March 2018, where one of our vessels was being towed by an icebreaker in the Gulf of Bothnia. The icebreaker was quite rapidly stuck in ice, and the third vessel in the convoy, loaded with heavy steel cargo, they weren't able to stop their vessel, and with a speed of almost 8 knots, they ran into the stern of our vessel. And in looking back now, we are really lucky that the damage was basically steel, no mechanical, and the ship stayed afloat. But of course, a fair bit of costs, and for us, the ship that run into our stern, of course, they got a hole in the forepeak. But then we came to the question of liability and responsibility of how should vessels be operated in a situation where we are assisted by icebreakers. So, and this has just been in court in Sweden, and the first ruling was that the vessel that was behind us, they were the cause of the accident. So we come to the liability question of who is responsible of their navigation of the ship. So, but I can tell you more about that, and maybe I will give the word to Sten or Niklas here in meanwhile.
Is there, just before we go to Sten and Niklas, is there anything so far that you have already implemented or you're going to implement in your ISM when it comes to winter navigation and icebreaker assistance?
We have not implemented yet anything. I do know that we have had discussions with our masters in our company, and also internal discussions about basically winter navigation procedures for our company. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Thomas.
A quick comment there. The Polar Code requires a brake light, which we don't use in the Baltic. But that could be a way of avoiding similar.
Hussein, in this situation, we do have a brake light. Actually, the icebreakers, they are entitled to lit 2 red lights in case they are stuck in ice. But in this situation, the ship behind us, they were so close that even they got an order to slow down and to stop, but still they run into our stern with 7.8 knots.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Sten and or Niklas, do you have some? What would you like to share?
Okay, yes, from our side, I'm let's say responsible for the incident reports, but honestly, we have not had much ice-related incidents during the last few years. So I think a lot of that is due to the very mild winters, of course. But when I listen to Thomas' experience here, I can mention at least one thing that we, let's say, regularly take care of round about this time of the year. That is to ensure that we have a list of direct numbers between the ferries in the traffic in the Gulf of Finland and between Sweden and Finland, which is circulated among the companies between Eckerö line, Tallink-Silja, a Viking line, and so on. And that list is updated and ensure that the numbers are up to date, so that the captains and the commands on the bridge can contact the ships directly by telephone or via satellite numbers, bridge to bridge, which is really important when you are navigating in the ice channels, and there might be some situations where you quickly have to get in touch with the other ship ahead or behind you.
That sounds like informal information sharing and cooperation, and sounds very, very nice. Something from Niklas' horizon.
From the last 15 years, where I've been working now on this cruise ship that belongs to Eckerö, I can only recall one incident, and it was a slightly twisted ISPS fence in port of Mariehamn when we reversed in quite heavy ice condition. But then also delay. We had a situation some years ago when the traffic was stopped outside the Swedish coast, which then of course prevented us, we weren't stuck there, but it prevented us going out there. And to avoid then of course loss of income, then we decided to do pilot licenses, so we are prepared to use other fairways. Before we had only pilot license in one fairway, and we hadn't even thought about that the traffic would even stop in that fairway. So we took a lesson learned there, and we took some pilot license, so it wouldn't, the thing that the temporary stop then due to ice condition in that fairway wouldn't affect us then for our business, because a few days without doing the cruises, we would lose quite a lot of money. And further than that, I can only remember from further earlier in my career, there has been few that doesn't have exactly to do with the navigation in ice, but cargo handling and thing in icy condition. And it's a lot of loss of, or not a lot, but there has been loss of hire and delays, of course, which could of course be avoided if you are well prepared.
Okay, thank you very much. Then the next question for the panel: what do you consider the biggest